Take a look at this painting. Imagine that you are standing on the beach, and this is a scene before you. Which of these people appear to be the closest to you? Which appear to be the furthest away? Can you see anything off in the distance? Using a series of strategies, an artist can create the illusion of depth, tricking our eyes and telling us that the island is far off in the distance, and that the people are right in front of us. However, if we close our eyes and feel the painting with our hands, we would find that the entire surface is completely flat. So how does the artist do it? How do they create a sense of space on a two-dimensional surface? One strategy is positioning. Typically, objects placed near the bottom of the picture plane appear closer to us, while things near the top appear further away. Another strategy is the use of overlapping. By placing subjects in front of each other, the objects in front appear closer to us, while the subjects being covered up appear further away. Size is another clue to tell us about space. The standing woman appears much closer than the man throwing the ball. Our brain tells us that they are probably about the same height, but the man is painted much smaller than the woman in order to make him appear further away. Value, or the lightness or darkness of the color, can be used to create shading in order to imply a sense of depth to a shape. Lighter values can also be used along with clarity in order to make things seem to disappear off into the distance. Far away objects appear softer and out of focus. We can even see the use of foreshortening in this painting. Foreshortening is a way of shortening an object to make it appear as if it's coming towards us. If we look at the standing woman's arms and measured them, we would find that her left arm is shorter than her right. We know that her arms are probably not different lengths, so our eyes tell us that her left elbow is actually turned towards us. Let's get out our paper and pencil and try a few of these techniques for ourselves. Pause the video and gather your materials, and when you're ready to begin, press play. Okay, so today for our warm-up, we're going to look at different ways that we can manipulate creating the illusion of space by how we draw the objects on the picture, or in the picture plane here. The first technique that we're going to try is just plain and simple positioning. So let's just draw a shape near the bottom of the page and draw another one further up the page and see if that helps create the illusion that the objects near the bottom are closer to us and the ones near the top are further away. Now let's combine that with overlapping. So the same thing, we're going to start at the bottom, but this time we're going to let the shapes overlap a little bit. And this can apply to any kind of shape. These squares, rectangles, triangles, organic shapes, whatever you like. And now this will appear that the shape closest to the bottom with our positioning, and the one in front with nothing obscured is going to be the closest one to us, and the one that's been covered up the most will be the furthest one back. Okay, so that's overlapping. Let's try another one. How about size? Well, again, I'm going to use what we already know. I'm going to use my positioning, and I'm going to use my overlapping along with size in order to create that illusion of space. So I'm going to put the largest spheres, and these ones won't overlap. I'll have some that don't overlap. But I'm going to put the largest spheres near the bottom, overlapping the other spheres. And as they get further away, I'm going to draw them smaller and smaller. And that will help also create that illusion of space, of depth. I can even kind of fill one in between if I want. Connect them a little bit. That's how we can use size. Let's talk about value. Value is one of the 7 elements of art, and it refers to how light or dark something is. So when we're just using plain black and white like this, then it just merely refers to the amount of shading we put on it. So now I've created basically what looks like a circle, but by applying my shading to it, by applying some value, I'm going to start giving it more of a 3D spherical kind of form. And I can even kind of reinforce that by doing a little bit of a cast shadow next to it. So all this use of light and dark is going to help me create this illusion of 3 dimensions. And if I start to combine that with this sketch that I've done with the positioning and the overlapping and the use of size, now I'm really starting to sell that illusion that these exist in 3-dimensional space. Starting to look more and more like a convincing, it's starting to look more and more like it actually occupies that space. So that's value. So now what I want to do is I want to take as many of the rules as I can and put them all together to create a new drawing. So I'm going to use my positioning, my overlapping, all of these things in order to create my next drawing. And I want you to go ahead and follow along with me. So I'm going to pick an object. For me, I'm going to draw a person. You could draw whatever you like to go in the foreground. But I'm just going to draw a real quick, simple kind of figure. Okay? Very simple, very basic. And then overlapping, smaller, to use that sense of size, I'm going to put a building. Maybe this guy's walking to the store, something like that. In fact, maybe there's a couple of stores, a couple of buildings. Okay. And we know that the buildings in reality would be much larger than the person, but because of the way that we've placed things in the drawing and the way that we've overlapped and that we've made these appear smaller, our brain tells us that they're not actually smaller, they're merely further away. I can even do a little bit of this soft focus horizon line. Maybe there's some trees back here that we would just rough in order to make them look like they're even further off into the distance, maybe even back there. But if I wanted to take those rules and kind of play with them a little bit, I could put like a giant into this drawing. I could put like a great big giant person. How do you think we could achieve that? How could we create the illusion that there's another second super giant person? Well, I'm going to show you a way that I've come up with for my drawing. And if you've got something that you can put into your drawing, then you go ahead and do that as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to still use size, so I'm going to draw a big person, but I'm going to put them behind this building. Maybe even have them like holding on to the roof or something. Maybe he's got his arm just kind of hanging over. It's like, hey, what's up? And now we've got this second person, and I'm going to add some of this shading to give them some depth, just a tiny bit. Use that value trick in order to create that sense of 3D space. And now we've got a guy who is actually larger than the house. So I want you now for the next 5 minutes, I'll play a piece of music. I want you to go ahead and just work on a drawing where you've got something in the foreground, something in the middle ground, and something in the background. When you hear the music, you may begin. You have 2 minutes remaining. Take a look at this painting. Imagine the horizontal line going through the middle of it, separating the sky from the earth. That's the horizon line. It's also called the eye level. The closer things are to the horizon line off in the distance, the smaller they are to make them appear further away. Notice how the trees get larger as they get closer to us. Same thing's true with the clouds. The largest clouds are at the top of the painting, and the smallest clouds are near the center, closest to the horizon line. Take a look at this painting. The man in the center stands in the middle ground of the painting. The couple on the right are in the foreground, and the people to the left are off in the background. Notice how the same rules apply. They are smaller as they're closer to the horizon line, implying that they're further away. The other interesting thing to notice is how everybody's head is right on that same eye level. They're all standing with their eye level on the horizon line. Let's start drawing. Alright, so let's do a drawing. I'm going to start by putting the horizon line in, just like that. And I'm going to put a couple of people. And it doesn't matter how big I draw these people, but if I draw a small one there and a great big one over here, as long as I've got their eyes on the horizon line, they're going to appear to have this space between them because I've made one of them large and positioned them lower on the page. And I'm just drawing the body based on the size of the head. So I'm using that head to tell me how large the body should be. Maybe I'll even pose these people. Make it a little more fun. This one's waving. Hand on the hip. It's like, oh, where you been? Or maybe he's like, hey, buddy. Yeah, that's more of a hey, buddy kind of pose. Hey, buddy. This guy's like, I don't know, he's just approaching. Maybe give him a collar. So, okay. So now I've got two people. One person's a little further away. One person's closer to the viewer. So now I want to take care of the scene a little bit. I want to do that by, I'm going to start with the sky. I'm going to start doing some clouds. And we remember that the smaller clouds, the clouds closest to the horizon line, are going to be little. And then the clouds that are closer to the viewer are going to be bigger. The further away from the horizon line they are, the larger they appear. Maybe I'll have one in between too. You can even have a little overlap. There we go. So we got the sky taken care of. So now let's talk about the background. Let's talk about the land. Maybe I want to put like a mountain off in the distance. Maybe another one over here. And I can even have like a land feature that overlaps. Add some value to give it more of that sense of depth. It kind of makes it look more like it goes off into the distance. Even add some trees way off in the background. And again, these are just going to be little teeny tiny trees because they're closer to the horizon line. And then maybe I want to put a tree more in the foreground, or in the middle ground rather, over here. So when I draw a tree, I like to just start with the trunk and then do some branches kind of coming off. And all kinds of trees look different, so you can use photo reference or you can use your imagination. But I definitely like to start with the trunk and then just make the branches come out. And then once I have that, I kind of decide on a shape for the leaves. And we can add a little bit of texture here on the bottom of the leaves to kind of give them a little bit of weight. And that's good for a sketch. And then maybe finally I want to put something way in the foreground, so maybe I'll have an even bigger tree. One that's coming right off the page. Gives it a nice kind of a frame, almost. Alright. So this tree is closest to us. And again, I'm going to give it a little bit of a value, kind of give it a little bit more depth. And now the only thing left for me to do is start drawing in some details on these characters and in the rest of the drawing. So let's do that. Maybe this person's wearing a little jacket with a collar, pocket. Maybe this guy's got a pattern. Maybe he's waving back. That seems like the nice thing to do. And do a little foreshortening here. There we go. Hey, buddy. Hey. So yeah, sleeve would have the pattern on it as well. He's got some hair. So there you go. Just fill it in with some details. However you want it to be, however you want to pose your people. Smiling. They're happy to see each other. Big hair. Alright. Well, there it is. That's my sketch for this week. I could sit here and continue to add details and add textures and value to it. But I think it's best if I do that on my own. So I encourage you to spend as much time as you like continuing to work on your drawing and filling all your details in, and maybe try it again with a different scene. Maybe put some buildings in there, or pyramids, or whatever you want. This is just another way of practicing drawing from our imagination. I'm so glad that you could hang out and make art with me today, and